Hello and welcome to my channel. I wanted to do a video response to my friend Glenn. We were talking in Catfish's chat and I found some frames from today that you can see right here. Yeah, I mean, the big showman, the big blue signature in the back, which you can see it all the time now, especially right now. But here we have at about -25, which all you gotta do is, not specifically you, Glenn, but is take 3,963 times 20, well, we said 25 equals, so there you go, 99,075 miles behind Earth. Alright, so that's really just for a little tip there how to do that. Scales here, it's an RE, 3,963 times your number on the scale. You can even calculate the same way this way. For height, in this case, this would be width, because this is North Pole, this is equator. Alright, but anyways, it is not all about the big blue in the back, but it's right here. There's always multiple things in here. The winds shows it the same location, because let's see. Yeah, see, watch these arrows here. It shows the location of that magnet. And even like there, see the purple, lowest pressure, because it's surrounded in blue, so it's got to be the next color below blue. And you'll see here that the scale is adjusted to take the dramatics out of things, but you see the zero sliding up and down. Now pay attention here, we're looking at 588 kilometers. There was some 600s. This is being measured inside the bow shock. But right here, as I showed in the last video, this discovers solar wind information from the sun. And as of right now, its wind speed is 304, and that wind speed will be detected here. Well, we would see it here in 2 hours under normal conditions. We're not talking solar flares and stuff. It's just wind. Okay, so let's just show you the big blue or IMF right there. That shouldn't be there. I've gone over that many times. So there are lots of ways to tell different things, where these other planetary bodies are at different times. I mean, this is a data gap so here, even right here, you can see a little purple. So it's another good indicator there. Now the data gap is for, it could be just an environmental issue out here. Like I said, it's inside the bow shock, and remember I showed you the wind speed here, but yet we're looking at 588 inside the bow shock, 601, 615. All that is coming from Earth. It's these close field lines right there. It's a magnetic barrier or energy barrier, so energy is flowing along it, but it's also pushing out, as you can see, around the polar cap lines. That's what they do. They push, because what you've got here is you have two magnets of the same polarity pushing, against, like everyone knows that if you put a north and a north together, what do? They push away. So this is what's going on, except at a planetary scale. That's well documented at this point by others. Okay, don't want to harp on close field lines because there's lots going on. This is mainly just a way of saying, hey, how to spot these little things going on inside this big mess. So this is a nice little, and this is electrically connected to Earth. That's why it's polar cap. Okay. Have the little intruders in here based on these, and that's an indicator there. I mean, why have that part? I mean, we saw it here many times. It's so that's another way. And then there is basically Earth has closed field lines out just outside of it. I mean, you just saw it. This handshake or crossover happens all the time. It's right there. -30. And then when the push comes out again from the opposite direction, like the flow is changing in a sense, right there, -30. It just depends who's pushing on it. Is it Earth pushing on it, or is it this magnet pushing on it? Which that is the case here. It's just the model doesn't read it as closed field lines because it doesn't know to. So here you have, here in this case, that is, we just call it blue, pushing as closed field lines, labeled as IMF though, against here. And you'll see the transition zone is the exact same point. So electrically connected to blue, now inside Earth's shield here. I mean, not shield, barrier, because that's essentially what it is. So is it flip-flop, I guess, in the best sense. I'm sure there's a much better term right now. Here, this could be because you've got the closed field lines and, you know, with the loop in it, but that's probably more along the lines of just, in a sense, like friction with this, you know, blues field. Don't see any other clear ones. It's for the data gap of like environmental to the satellites, or who knows, or something on their end down at where they basically compute the model based on the data from the satellite. You know, there's many things that could be going on that we just will never know. So, all right, well, those are the pretty obvious ones. Let's see what the solar wind will show us. There's one part I wanted to show here, right here. The same thing as we saw earlier. -30. This is interesting. Now, let's see. What was I think I wanted to point out? Where was it? Back here. So the other indicator here is you could see that the wind has basically created a wall here. You know, some people may say, well, it's the energy is coming through the bow shock and circling around and going in, but yet, you know, a lot of times you'll see it pushing the opposite direction. You know, it's cycling all the way around through here. But then you've got another magnet here that's affecting it, because there isn't enough, wind penetrating the bow shock to overcome what's going on here. I mean, you can clearly see that we have, and I would just call it pressure, a lot of intense pressure here just around because of the induction heating here. Electricity being pulled off the bow shock to do these closed field lines. Induction heating. That's why, you know, California and all these places are on fire. They're all along fault lines. And volcanic, well, the volcanoes are there with the fault lines as well. So it makes perfect sense that there are fires in there when you have an electron magnet constantly having extremely high amounts of electricity running through it, and planet is matter, so electricity through matter creates heat. So what happens is, over time, when your planet core is warming, all this heat's being applied. Well, it's going to release that pressure somewhere along the fault lines. Okay? And the volcanoes. But, as it's heating, it's also going to bulge too. Hence all the large cracks that have formed and train derailments. I've even seen pictures of concrete highway sections buckling up and creating a ramp. Sidewalks being pushed together like when you're trying to shuffle a deck of cards and you just don't make it, and they just create a little bridge. Well, you see that as well. There's many indicators, along with the large indicators of down in Africa with the rift zone, where that was increased. New rifts in California. I just don't remember all the terms all the time. So, as of since the sevens happened, I guess it was last summer. So, Earth is changing. Long Valley Caldera is just getting so many quakes a day, as well as Yellowstone. People are documenting the changes in Yellowstone on their channels. So, this is what's going on. The induction heating. And, also that means your oceans are going to warm, so your storms are stronger. So, we've got plants flowers blooming. At least this year, they started blooming in February here in Virginia. There's so many little indicators around going on that maybe people are overlooking, but they're visible. I mean, aside from the earthquakes and the increase in earthquakes and the increase in volcanic activity, I mean, the core is warming, and what happens? The pressure has to be let out somewhere. It has to transfer. Well, it's the fault lines and the volcanoes. It's not dew. Oh, since we're on that, since I brought that up, I'll just go there and I'll just show you that, okay? Anybody who's looked Dutch Sense of his videos recently, you all saw I want to find the other link. This one. Okay. Saw the red, and I'm doing quotes in the air, laser or dew. Well, that's a pretty fairly normal event for the satellite during the eclipse, what they call the eclipse season. And they explain that it's straight light contamination and truncated swaths during goes east fall. This is a yearly season, twice a year. But they're explaining that, that's not the right spot. Let's see. Have you noticed straight light contamination, invisible IR, all the other imagery recently? Missing pieces of images as well. Odd behavior. This is due to light from the sun directly entering the imaging sensors during a period known as the eclipse season. The eclipse season occurs in the northern hemisphere during spring and fall We're in fall, late August to mid-October. Well, we're, September 8th or 9th when it was being visible, you know, every year. During this period, the satellite enters the shadow of the Earth during the late night hours. Sunlight enters the sensors and impacts the imagery and GLM as the satellite enters and leaves the Earth's shadow. More details on this phenomenon can be found at this webpage. And it's just NOAA explaining things, and it even has the chart for, or the schedule for the eclipses that they call it. So as you can see, the satellites they used goes 16 and 17 for the east and west. So I just want to throw that out there. And of course I'll put links in the description notes so you can look up this yourself and make a knowledgeable decision based on the information. Okay? I think that's it. Until the next one. Knowledge overcomes fear.